All right, viewers, we're back. We've been talking about the prevention. We've been talking about the signs, what to look for. Once you see those signs, you either ask your partner to go get help, or it's time for you to leave that relationship before it even gets to marriage. Prevention, mostly for people that are dating, people that are in a relationship to get into marriage. Now, we are going to talk about the solution. You are in a domestic violence situation. You are already there. You didn't look for these signs. You're already married to this person, either the man or the woman. Now, what do we do? How do we help ourselves? How do we look for solution? What are the signs? What are the remedies? What do we need to do to help ourselves so that we don't have a sister dead or a brother dead? So that children don't suffer, because at the end of the day, children are the ones that suffer. The husband will suffer, the wife will suffer, but the children are the people that suffer the most, because they are the ones that are born into this situation. When two elephants fight, the grass always gets hot. So now let's go to solution. And the first one I want to throw out there is communication. Communication. Let's start with you, Dr. Ozo. How would communication be a solution, a remedy for domestic violence?
Well, you and I know that solution to any problem starts with the cause, causative factors or the triggers.
Okay.
So one of the things about communication is that marriage is actually communion. In fact, that word communication came from the root word communication or common union.
Okay.
Okay. And because communication is key, you cannot solve a problem you don't know. You have to let the person aware. Maybe there's a habit that you notice in your spouse you don't like, and then you keep on bottling it inside you, and you never discuss it with her. She doesn't know. She's not a psychic. There's no way
she can read your mind.
Yeah. And also the man, if the woman has a problem and the woman failed to communicate and say, well, my husband should have known and all that, don't make assumptions, because assumption is the mother of all mistakes.
Yes. Exactly.
Always be open and discuss things. Talk it out. When you say and discuss things, problem shared is problem half solved.
It's half solved.
So, child of God, if you don't know how to communicate, at least express your feeling, so that the other person would know, or the other partner would know, or your spouse would know. And when we start communication, one of the reasons why communication is also important is that, the Bible is so powerful. It says, confess your fault to one another so that you might be healed.
Yes.
So healing is solution. Healing is salvation.
Exactly.
Healing is remedy to the problem, because we are talking about domestic violence. We want to heal it. We want to solve the problem.
Exactly.
We want to find solution. We want to, and not pet remedies or temporary solution. We want to solve it permanent. So we don't want pet answers. And that is the key. So communication is very, very important, because communication is also part of openness.
Openness, exactly.
You understand? So very, very important. And another thing about communication is that if you bottle things in before you get to physical abuse or assault and battery, one of the things you have to do, and I see this often in a lot of people, they allow something to fester, to brew inside, to percolate, and anger tends to accumulate over time. And when you not let out the steam, it may be in a very bad way.
It becomes very disastrous.
Yes, it's very, very disastrous and damaging and devastating. That's why a stitch in time saves 9. And the key is to tell the person. See, sometimes you don't just tell, you show.
You show.
Because it's part of the communication process. Because
it can be either verbal or non-verbal.
Yes, non-verbal.
And I agree with Dr. Ozo. Communication is the key to everything. Communication will allow you, the people in the relationship, to talk things over. when the steam must have blown over. You don't want to start communication
when everybody
is angry. Because like you
that's
said,
when you use
you're gonna say
words.
things that you're gonna regret.
Exactly.
So best option is to talk about it later. There's one thing, when I got married, there was a plaque that somebody gave me, and the plaque reads that it takes 2 to make a marriage, but I have come to find out that 2 plus Jesus means that it takes 3 for a marriage to work. Okay. And I hang that in my house up to today. And the reason that is important is this: communication. When 2 people are able to communicate, it could be communication through praying together as a family.
As a family.
It could be communication through talking things over. It could be communication through understanding one another. It could be communication through doing for one another, so that one person can know or appreciate the other. Once you open up communication, the relationship, you will avoid anger, resentment, built up anger over the years, because you have already talked about it. Bitterness, and that will help
fault
finding or blame.
Yes, blame.
These things will help you to be able to have a better and healthy relationship.
And another thing I want to add there, in our previous shows we talked about communication, but I also want to highlight a little bit about negative communication.
Yes.
It's good to communicate, but it depends on how you are communicating.
That's correct.
When you're going to tell somebody their fault and you're criticizing and using derogatory words, that is not communication.
At all.
Like you said, communication is when the steam has blown over and you sit down and talk about it. Another aspect I want to point out on communication is sometimes communication might be misunderstood.
Right.
In the sense that, and let me give you an example. I might see you and say, hey, this your hair. Now, wow, that's all I said. To you, you might have the impression that I said your hair is messed up. But you didn't understand that what I mean is that your hair is fabulous.
Right.
That's where communication is very positive. Communication is important. Because you can come to me and say, Miss Akudo, why did you say Nawa for my hair? Why? I say, oh, sweetie, your hair is beautiful. But if you did ask me that question, you will go home with resentment, thinking I was making fun of your hair. And that has caused a lot of problem in marriages.
Right.
You know, I had a typical example, and I think I told you guys this story, I think 2 or 3 episodes back. A lady, she got dressed, and she went to her husband, and she asked her husband, how do I look? The husband said, you look good, pretty. You look good, sweetie. She said, no, but I think I'm fat. The husband said, yeah, I think you're fat. And she left. She didn't speak to her husband for a week. So her husband went back and asked, why are you not talking to me? She said, because you told me I'm fat. The husband said, no, I didn't say. I was just saying what you said, because I have already told you you're not fat, but you keep saying you're fat. So apparently, maybe you want to say you're fat, so that's why I said it. And the woman said, no, you should have said, no, I'm not fat. The man said, you wanted me to lie that you're not fat? But she said, no, it's the tone, the voice, the tone of your voice that made it look like you were criticizing me. I said, I think I'm fat. I wanted to say, oh, no, maybe you have added a little bit, but you're still okay. I would have loved that. But you said, yeah, you're fat. And she came to the husband when the husband was watching a football game. So you know in his mind, he was saying anything to get you out of the front of the TV so I can watch my football. So you see, please, audience, be mindful when you are communicating. Mind your tone, mind the way you say it, and mind the timing is also important. When somebody is down, that is not the time to communicate their faults to them.
Or put them down.
When I'm already feeling insecure, I'm coming back as a wife or as a husband, and I'm complaining to you about what happened at work. That is not the best time to tell me, but honey, that is really what you do. You're very bad at that.
Yes.
All I need right that time is reassurance.
Yes. Encouragement.
All I need is encouragement. All I need is positive reinforcement. Tell me, okay, honey, don't worry about those people. Then later on, you might communicate to me, but honey, maybe your tone was a little, try to lower it down. But mind the timing. Don't hit me when I'm already down.
Yes.
Don't kick me when I'm already down. Mind when you say it. Mind how you say it. And please, guys, mind your tone.
Of voice.
And make it very clear what you're communicating.
Yes.
Make it clear.
Very
If
important.
you're communicating that you like me, tell me in those
Communication
terms you
has
like
to be
me.
very clear,
It
because
has
she
to
said
be very
it.
clear.
Nobody is a psychic.
Nobody is a psychic.
You have to be very clear on
Exactly.
what you're trying to say to your partner.
Don't tell me. I had a woman tell me, my husband never says I love you to me, and the husband said, but you already know I love you.
How do I
she
know that?
already knows, but she needs you for you once in a while to throw it
Yes,
out there.
that reinforcement.
That reinforcement.
That affirmation.
It makes her feel good.
Affirmation means to make firm,
Yeah.
to make steady, to reinforce.
To
Because
reinforce.
when you reinforce, you enforce.
Exactly. And
I'll
that's,
tell you what my
and
son,
that's what that woman is
what my
looking
son tells me that is very funny. My son is 23 years old. My son tells me that a man needs to be loved. Children needs to feel
for. That they are
that
loved.
they are loved. But
Women
that a woman needs to be shown
she's
that
loved.
she is loved.
Yes, she wants to be
So
pampered.
we have that, and Dr. Kudo said it here. We just have to be shown.
Shown.
So telling me that you love me every day, but I walk into the house and you're criticizing me.
You're
I do
yelling
this.
at me.
I
You're
never do
withdrawn.
anything right.
Exactly.
What tells me that you
That
love
you love
me?
me.
That you say it 24 times a day doesn't mean anything. I need to be shown that I love,
Like, so-
that you love me.
So you see that women out there, guys, your woman needs to be shown she's loved. Your children need to feel that they are loved. And men, you guys need to be loved. Everybody plays a part in this. You have to communicate. Say how you feel. Nobody is a psychic. If you can't express your feelings and your emotions,
Write it down.
nobody will hear you. If you need to write it down, if you need to go out on a date with your husband, if you need to go somewhere and talk about it, because that is the key to solving 80%, if not
of
100%
marriage problems.
of marriage problem. Now let's go to the second one. Tell somebody about domestic violence. Expose it is one of the solutions. Let's start with you, Dr. Ijoma.
One
Exposure.
of the problems that we have with domestic violence is that it is a crime of shame.
Exactly.
And the reason it is a crime of shame is that the first time it happens, women, especially women in diaspora, which is women from the African culture, because of our cultural upbringing, we have been taught that everything that happens in the family stays in the family.
Exactly.
It's between you and your husband. If your husband beats you, is that the reason you should be shouting? Is that the reason? I mean, this
Didn't
happens
your
all the
father
time.
hit your
Didn't
mother?
your father hit your mother?
If he's back home, will you call the police?
Is it because you are
Exactly.
in America, you want to be Americanized and call police? If a husband beats you to put you in line, and to make you toe a certain line, is that something you're complaining about? This kind of cultural and Christian, most of us are Christians also, and our Christian belief against divorce, and our Christian belief against separation, and our Christian belief, which people have misconstrued, which is the submissiveness of the woman to her husband, which has been misconstrued, also play a major part why people do not report
Cover it up.
abuse.
Exactly.
Abuse is being covered, and what it leads to is death, destruction, damage. So the key to some of this solution is to tell somebody. Expose the abuser every chance you get. Call somebody
Family
that he
members.
looks up to.
Friends.
Family member.
Exactly.
Friends. Someone that you think is influential in his life.
Or her life.
A good friend. Not someone who wants to break up the marriage relationship
Exactly.
because of their own ulterior motives. You're looking for someone who has the interest of the family at heart. Report it to them. Most times, you can control abuse if the abuser is exposed.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's not always in
Very
every
well.
of the case.
Exactly.
But most times you can. Tell someone. If you can't tell someone that you know, go to the churches. Tell your pastor. Tell your man of God. If you think that they are not helping you out, talk to other people. Talk to other women. There are shelters out there. There are things out there you can gather information. Tell someone and know how to deal with abuse if you're facing domestic violence.
Dr. Uzo, what do you have to say about that? Exposure. Tell somebody. What do you have to add to
I want
that?
to say this and make it loud and clear, because if you break it down, you take it down. You cannot dispose any problem you never exposed.
Exactly.
You can't sweep it under the rug, hoping it's going to go away.
You're gonna go away.
And that thing again about getting the word out and creating awareness and exposing it is that you can never dispose the devil if you don't expose him. In other words, you have to locate the devil to dislocate him.
Okay.
So it's any problem.
Right.
Because most often, people don't want to share things because of shame.
Shame.
Maybe because they've gone out and then talked to everybody how they have an ideal marriage.
Ideal marriage.
And this is fantasy. It doesn't exist. There's no ideal marriage.
There's no ideal
There's
marriage.
no marriage made in heaven. Well, it may be made in heaven. The idea was conceived in heaven, but it has to be lived
But
here
you have to live it on earth.
On earth. And you are dealing with two people with their fault. So even if it's a preacher or someone or your girlfriend or somebody in church that come to, present what they are not, as if they have an ideal marriage, you know that you are dealing with a hypocrite. And,
Right.
and church folks cover so many things.
Especially in the church.
Yes.
Especially in the church.
Yes.
Especially in the church.
Especially in the
Because
church.
abuse is even worse
In the
In the
church.
church.
even among ministers.
Exactly.
Church
And their
members,
wives.
and their wives. And then they pretend and come back to the pulpit that, people don't want to be exposed. That is the problem.
That is the problem.
And guess what? We have to, because
That's
there's a
the only way.
difference between personal weaknesses and demonization.
Exactly.
We have to deal with our weaknesses. If we don't deal with our weaknesses, it will bring us down. If we don't master our weaknesses, we will bring us down.
Okay.
So what do we do? The alternative is to confront it,
Okay.
deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, it's not going to go away.
It's not going to
You
go
can
away.
pretend all you want to.
Because,
So child of
Only
God,
it escalates and gets
exactly,
worse.
exactly. So it's important because, and also awareness is so that you are passing this thing on to your children, future generation. Because when they know that they can tolerate and deal with abuse, they now know and then empowered in future to know that when they get to the stage of mommy and daddy, I'm not going to tolerate abuse.
Exactly.
Because that will save you. And another thing again is that if you do that, then already you are securing your future, because once you see the telltale sign, you're already out.
You're already out.
But
you won't even get to
exactly.
it.
But it starts with exposure. Because if you don't expose it, trust me, at the end of the day, when in African tradition and where we come from, usually people always try to hide things because
of
they
the
don't want
shame.
to look bad.
They don't know. Everybody
Yes.
wants to present a
picture,
perfect
a
picture.
Pollyanna
So they
picture.
think, how will I come out and
Yes.
tell people that my husband is hitting me?
Yes.
Especially if you are well educated, you're well educated, you have a good job, you're respected in the community. How are you going to turn around and tell people, hey, my wife is hitting me or my husband is hitting me? So the best thing is I'll manage it, I'll keep it under control, and as long as he doesn't hit me where nobody sees it, I'm okay. And that's why domestic violence is escalating.
And guys, another thing that is important, why it is important that you should tell someone is because the abuser is counting on the fact that
You
will
won't
not
tell anybody.
say.
Exactly.
And that's why they will continue to do it. But once you expose them, usually some of them will stop it, because now
they
you
know.
have broken that thing that they were counting on.
And
You
it's a
must
form of
expose them.
intimidation.
That's a
Not
form of
telling truth,
manipulation.
manipulation and
Yes,
intimidation.
manipulation.
Because as long as he, the abuser, knows that you will never tell,
will
so
continue.
he will
You continue
continue
to
because
do
he
it.
know. But once you now tell, you have broken that manipulation. So
Yes.
what is he gonna manipulate and intimidate you with?
Nothing.
The whole world now knows he's
They
an
know
abuser.
that he's an abuser. And no man or woman wants to be called an abuser.
No.
So once you expose it, majority of the time it goes away, unless it is an extreme case, which is what we're going to talk about next.
later on. So please, guys, I hope you guys are listening. Number one solution is communication.
Yes.
Number two, we talked about exposing.
Exposure.
You have to expose it. Even if you're the wife of the president, even if you're the wife of the president of United States of America, even if you're the wife of the president of Nigeria, Africa, wherever you are, I don't care where you are.
Senators, it doesn't matter.
Senators, legislators, governors,
Expose them.
ministers, prophets, evangelists, men of God, prophetess, whoever you are. If you are in an abusive relationship with a partner, please, that partner, expose it. If it's in the church and it is your bishop, tell the person that is above him, the archbishop. If it is the archbishop, tell the person that is above him. If it is the senator, tell the governor. If it is the governor, tell the president. If it's the president, find somebody else to tell. You have to tell somebody. That is the only way we can say no.
That's the only way we can stop it.
No and stopping domestic violence.
That's the only way we can stop it.
We have to expose them. You are
Exposure
not
is the key.
Don't be ashamed. It is a crime of shame. Don't be ashamed. Nobody is perfect. I have my faults. She has her faults. We all have faults. Because I'm not able to clean the house right is not a guarantee that I should be hit 3 times every day. If I can't clean the house, teach me how to clean the house.
Oh, you can clean it.
If you,
that's why we're partners.
Yes, you can help me clean it and show me how to do it. If I can't, and if we can afford to get somebody to clean it for us, let's get somebody. But don't hit me because I can't clean the house. Because on your own part, maybe you can't wash the car either. I'm not going to hit you because you can't wash the car. So guys, tell somebody about it. Tell family members. If you're, sometimes husbands and wife will fight and their mother-in-laws are in the same house. And in the morning, the mother will ask the daughter or the son, I had you guys fighting last night. Oh, mommy, it was nothing. Right there, we are covering up when you are supposed to tell. If it is the boy's mom and he's the one hitting, maybe she will talk to the son. If it is the girl's mother, maybe she will talk to the mother. But we are still hiding from friends. We are hiding from family members. We are hiding from the society. And then this person, this abuser, now thinks, hey, she will never tell.
And no matter what they tell you, it's never your fault that somebody is abusing you. It's always the fault of the abuser.
Yes.
Whether the abuser is female or male, it doesn't matter. Whoever is doing the abuse, it is their fault. They
because
need help.
It shows you can't control yourself.
Yes, they have lost control.
You have anger issues. And that's why we're going to go to the third solution, anger management. Because if you can control your anger, I don't care what it is. I do not care what it is. If you walked into a room and you found your wife stealing money from your pocket or stealing from your wallet, or you come into a room and you find your wife doing no matter what, walk away. Don't hit her. Nothing anybody will do to you warrants the person to be hit. Domestic violence is not tolerated.
And then while we are emphasizing exposure and getting the word out, is not to compound the shame.
Yes.
No.
Why we are doing that is that the man can or the woman can get help. And also for the children to know
It's
not tolerated.
That is not
because
tolerated.
we are not just saying this for our generation, we're also saying it for future generations.
Because statistics have proven that people that abuse their partners, it's a vicious cycle.
Yes,
the children are going to abuse their partners too, unless something is done.
That's
so
why
this is why we're doing
That's why
this.
they said that children from abusive relationships tend to
be
turn out to be abusers
themselves.
Right,
themselves.
so you have to do this,
Because-
like he said, to prevent your children from becoming abusers
Yes,
too.
themselves.
The society is different.
And another thing I want to tell my audience before we move on to anger management, you guys should understand, most women and most men, this is a very wrong mindset. I am in that relationship because
for
of
my children. Nah.
Honey, it's not for your children.
Nah.
You're destroying your children.
Right.
Because your daughters will get into relationship, abusive relationships, because they think mommy took it, so why can't I take it? Your sons will think it's okay to put their hands on a woman because they saw their dad hit their mom all through their lives. You are in that relationship because of your children. But sweetheart, you are destroying your children and setting them up to be abusers in future.
In fact, to buttress what she said, one of my cousins today in Houston, she's in her early 60s and she's not married. The reason why she didn't marry at a young age was the way the daddy abused the mom. And he said, if marriage is like this, I'm not going to get married. And up to today, she's not married. It's a pathetic story.
So you see, that is not the message we want to send to our children. My young audience out there, my older audience out there, men, women, please pay attention to this before we move on. Abuse is not exposed because we want people to laugh at you. No. We are not saying expose it because we want your husband to lose his value in the society or your wife to lose the value in the society. No. Our aim is so that your husband will see that he has been exposed, your wife will see that she has been exposed and get help.
Yes.
Majority of the time, not all the time, Most men that have been exposed have finally gotten help for themselves.
And moreover, you can't even, this idea that you mentioned, Dr. Ehirim, that people get married, that people stay in a relationship for their children, is wrong. The institution of marriage is not meant for children.
Exactly.
The institution of marriage is meant for husband and wife to enjoy their relationship.
Exactly.
Children
are just a product
of the relationship.
Yes.
So you cannot stay in an abusive relationship for your children. No, the relationship to begin with is for you and your husband for companionship and love. Children is an adage that was put in there. Yes, you have to take care of your children and build your family so you can make a family unit for God. But that's not why God brought a man and a woman together. Primarily. No, making children, yes, to expand, multiply and grow.
Exactly.
But he wanted a companion for Adam. That's why he gave him Eve.
Yes.
So guys,
it has to be for you.
I hope you guys are listening. Now let's move to the third solution, anger management. We have a lot of people out there that they know they have anger problems. How do you know you have anger problems? When you can't control your anger. You have to hit somebody, hit the wall, throw something, yell, scream. Some people scream so much that they are about to pop a vein or something. Some people can't breathe when they are angry. Some people start to hyperventilate because they are angry. Guys, something is really wrong.
Or have palpitations of the heart.
And if you have gotten to that stage, guys, we need management. Let's start with Dr. Uzo. Let's talk a little bit about anger management.
Well,
as a solution to domestic violence.
The first thing about anger management is that you have to know you have a problem.
Exactly.
Because the first solution is to identify the problem.
Don't
get into denial. Don't blame or rationalize it that, oh, it's my old Irish anger, or I'm like that,
or my wife
is the one making me angry,
or
the devil made you do it. We have to take responsibility
for our actions.
And and also, not knowing the law is not an excuse.
No. Ignorance of the law is never an excuse.
So, anger management starts with knowing who you are.
Okay.
First of all, anger has 3 classifications.
Okay.
1, anger could have emotional triggers. Anger can also be a spiritual problem. In other words, this is demonism, this is demonization. People always forget that because it's always behind the scene. And also, anger can also be a normal reaction to something you don't like, because anger is a product of expectation. For instance, you expect me to behave well, I didn't behave well.
So you're not angry.
Lash out and say, I thought you're a doctor. People do that. People do it to you as well and their partner. Now, if you want us to go through the steps, we also have to recognize, the first thing we recognize about anger management is the many faces of anger.
Exactly. Because we always have this stereotype that for you to be angry, you must be yelling, screaming, throwing, hitting. If it's not in that shape and face,
then you're not angry.
Exactly.
But there are other faces. So tell us some of the faces
Other faces of anger are things like withdrawal,
okay,
not talking to your mate. In other words, you remain incommunicado.
Okay.
Not picking up her calls or her phone calls, and then not doing the regular thing you're supposed to do.
Ignoring her or him in the house.
And one of the things women complain a lot is that my husband doesn't listen to me.
No, not listening.
In other words, he listens to his friends, listens to his pals,
even listen to other women.
Listen to his
wives.
Folks at home. Telling him how to run his wife or run his home.
Or run his home.
And some of them,
his friends' wives.
And some of them are daddy's man or daddy's girl, because instead of going to the Holy Spirit or the Bible to get solution, they get solution from their friend who is not even married.
Exactly.
Getting solution from them about how to run their
some
home.
of their friends who already have been through 4 or 5 marriages.
Divorces. Because sometimes, misery seeks company.
Right.
And they will only give you solution that will destroy you, so that you join their club.
So you can join their club.
And you have to understand these things. So, and also, if your husband used to call on you to tell you I love you, all of a sudden he stopped.
He might be angry.
He might be angry. And so a lot of psycho-spiritual undertone actually shows us that something is wrong when, the other face of anger that we don't normally discern. Because let me even tell us this. What we think is anger is when somebody yells or bangs the door or destroy things or drives away or scriptures or speaks up or says something nasty about you. No, because this is where people miss it. The subtle ways, because people think it's black and white. No, there are gray areas. Now, I know you people want me to go through this, so you listen to the steps. We might discuss it here or next time for the sake of time. Number one thing, we've already mentioned it. Learn to recognize the many faces of anger.
Okay.
There are 13 steps. Second step is admit that all angry expression, whether good or bad, are the result of choices.
Exactly.
You can make a choice not to be angry.
Yes,
a choice.
it's up to you.
No, just like we said, you can make a choice, I'm angry, but I'm going to walk away.
Exactly.
Or you can make a choice, I'm angry and I'm going to hit you.
Exactly.
I'm angry, I want to hit you.
I'm angry. We'll talk about it later.
It's a choice, you're right.
It's your choice.
So what's number 3?
Number 3 actually is you have to let go of excessive dependencies, so your anger management is inwardly directed rather than externally determined. Okay. Because
you have to let go of things you can't control.
Exactly. You cannot control everything. You are a human being. You are not God.
Yeah, just let go.
There are things you have to control. There are things you cannot control. There are things you can't even. It's only God. Don't play God in somebody's life.
That's correct.
In other words, go back in and control yourself. Otherwise, if you don't control, there's this law of correspondence. What happens inside will determine what happens outside. So anger is a product of thinking and thoughts. When that thought comes and all that, if you don't control it inside, it's going to express itself and you blow out outside. So that is number 3.
Okay, before you go to number 4, I want to emphasize on something. I like what he said. Leave the things you can't control. A good example, audience. For example, you married a woman that is an extrovert. You marry the woman that whenever she walks in, whether she speaks, she doesn't speak, she doesn't say a word, people will know she has come in.
Right.
You can't control that. Telling her to dress in a certain way, not say anything, not have eye contact with people, sit away from the crowd, hide herself, will not change that. You can't control who she is. That's who she is. And that's who you married.
And that is one funny thing. Dr. Akudo, the same extrovert, the same qualities
that you saw
that attracted you to the woman is the quality you want to
change.
Hide. It doesn't work that way.
Remember what I said?
It's going to cause a lot of trouble.
Remember what I said? Before marriage, unlike dress,
exactly.
Attract.
Exactly.
That's why she was attracted to you and you marry her in the first place.
Exactly.
But after marriage, they attack.
Exactly.
Because you're trying to change the human being.
Exactly. You can't change anybody. Only God does that. Unless you want to be Holy Ghost Junior.
All right, guys. Before we go on a commercial break, Dr. Uzo, I want you to say that again.
Okay.
So we can go on a commercial break on that. Okay.
I am saying, and I will submit, that before marriage, unlike traits or characters, attract. But after marriage, they attack.
Exactly. So, guys, the same extrovert, that woman or that man hasn't changed. She is the same person. You saw her in a place, somebody introduced you to her, you met her on the way. I don't know where you guys met. And what you like about her is the way she smiles,
she carried
herself, the way she talks. She's confident. She's an intelligent, confident woman. And that's why you married her. Why all of a sudden do you want her to be a dumb, introvert, under the table, hiding, village champion?
Yeah, can't take her out.
Because
you want her now to become a stooge. You want her to become a puppet. But you married her because of how confident she is. Why do you want to change her now?
Now you want to change her.
So that is what we have to be very careful. You cannot change everything. How do they say it? Give me the strength to change what I can change, and what? The power
and the wisdom.
The wisdom to accept the
ones things that I cannot change.
And then the self-control. How do they say then what I cannot control and to accept?
To accept things I can't control.
I cannot change.
On that, we are going to a commercial break. We'll be right back.